Tonight we dive into a family saga so explosive it threatens to rewrite Hollywood history. Rain Pryor, daughter of comedy legend Richard Pryor, just dropped a bombshell that threatens to topple decades of silence. She claims secret diaries and hidden recordings reveal an intimate night between her father and Marlon Brando, the Academy Award-winning icon. What was once whispered in corridors is now laid bare for the world to see. Stay tuned as we unpack every shocking detail. Before we jump into Rain's revelations, let's rewind to the man at the heart of the story, Richard Pryor. Born in Peoria, Illinois in 1940, Pryor rose from a childhood marked by brothels, violence, and poverty to become one of the most groundbreaking comedians of his era. His raw, unfiltered style challenged conventions, forcing audiences to laugh at truths too uncomfortable to ignore. By the mid-1970s, Pryor was a household name, a double threat on stage and screen. But fame did not shield Pryor from his demons. Decades of drug use, relationship turmoil, and unrelenting pressure on stage took their toll. In 1980, while freebasing cocaine, he suffered third-degree burns in a catastrophic accident. That moment of literal fire would become a metaphor for his combustible genius and his struggle to balance self-destruction with creativity. Yet Pryor's ability to channel pain into comedy only deepened his connection with audiences, turning vulnerability into universality, raw, authentic humor. Amid this chaos, a young Rain Pryor navigated her own orbit of instability. Born in 1969 to Richard and actress Shelley Bonus, Rain's earliest memories were colored by wild tours, erratic parenting, and fleeting stability. She witnessed her father's brilliance light up the stage, then fade into the abyss of addiction. She saw him transform pain into punchlines, only to collapse in despair afterward. And she learned that the Pryor legacy was one of both genius and tragedy. Fast forward to 2018. Rain Pryor, now an actress and author, found herself locked in a bitter legal battle with Jennifer Lee, her father's widow. Jennifer, twice married to Richard and named executor of his estate, controls a fortune estimated at over $40 million. Rain alleges Jennifer manipulated her father in his final days, isolating him from his children, rewriting wills, and funneling assets into her name. The stakes could not be higher, and it's playing out publicly. The controversy erupted when Rain revealed Jennifer had blocked her siblings from seeing Richard during his fight with multiple sclerosis. Court filings depict a father in decline, surrounded by legal guardians, as his own children were barred from his side. Rain accuses Jennifer of abusing her authority to alter trust documents and siphon royalties. Rain dropped the bombshell. She released journal entries Richard kept in his final months, pages filled with references to that night with Brando. Audio snippets from those diaries, now leaked online, include an entry dated May 1974. He whispered my name in a low voice, as soft as cigarette smoke, and I felt both fear and longing. That line sparked a frenzy among fans and historians alike, demanding proof, context, and corroboration. Was Marlon Brando really at the center of a secret rendezvous? Did Richard Pryor confess something he'd never shared on stage? We'll carefully examine the entries and their implications. Before we dig in, let's set the scene. It's June 1974. Richard Pryor, fresh off the success of his gold-certified album, That Nigger's Crazy, is riding high. He's invited to a private gathering at Marlon Brando's Bel Air estate, surrounded by Hollywood elite, and fueled by powder and pot. According to rumors passed down through the decades, the night swirled into something far more intimate and unexpected. But until now, only a few rare notebooks held the truth. Now, let's break down the entry that sparked the firestorm. On page 12, under a simple date heading, Pryor scribbled, "Brando was there. His eyes like deep wells, searching mine. We spoke nothing, yet the air hummed between us. Suddenly, decades of speculation collided with undeniable first-hand testimony. Fans and critics raced to authenticate handwriting, compare ink stains to known diaries, and launched a desperate hunt for witnesses who might remember every whisper from that smoky night. Eyewitness accounts remain rare. Actor Paul Mooney, Pryor's longtime writing partner, recalled overhearing a heated debate about privacy that night, but he admits he never saw Brando enter Pryor's bedroom. Marisa Tomei, present at the party, described seeing Brando and Pryor sharing a laugh over D.H. Lawrence's writings, but denies any hint of more intimate contact. These conflicting memories only deepen the mystery. So where does that leave us, decades later, when records collide with juicy rumors? But the plot thickens, when digital sleuths and diary hunters flooded the internet with blurry scans of Pryor's handwritten pages. Social media ignited, fans debating whether those cryptic lines were genuine or a clever plant. An anonymous source even posted side-by-side photos of Pryor's known handwriting on old contracts and the contested diary entry. The similarities were uncanny: the rounded R loops, the trailing commas, and the slight slant to the right. Yet skeptics pointed out that any good forger could mimic a public figure's script if armed with enough samples. Meanwhile, dozens of snippets surfaced in online forums. Some translated journal entries, others grainy audio claiming to capture Pryor reading aloud. Each fragment added fuel to the firestorm, deepening the divide between believers and deniers. While the Pryor estate stayed conspicuously silent, enter the handwriting experts, hired by independent journalists and even a few intrepid YouTubers. These professionals unspooled high-resolution scans, overlaying letters, strokes, and pressure patterns. One forensic analyst noted, "The pen pressure on that diary page matches Pryor's known autograph from 1973. You can see the fade into the paper, the ink pooling at the curve of certain letters. It's virtually identical." But the defense team, led by Jennifer Lee's legal counsel, challenged these findings, citing a lack of original documents and chain of custody concerns. "We've seen no pristine, unaltered manuscript," they claimed. At the same time, an audio engineer volunteered to enhance the leaked voice clip. Crackles and hiss transformed into a haunting whisper, two voices, one unmistakably Pryor's, the other low, furtive. Could that be Brando's? The truth became shrouded in static. Then came the denials. Miko Brando, Marlon's eldest son, stepped forward in a terse statement. "These claims are baseless. My father never crossed that line with Pryor, nor would he have agreed to this invasion of privacy." He added that any diary fragments must be forgeries or exaggerations, but his response only opens fresh wounds. In a separate 2018 interview, Quincy Jones had chuckled as he recounted wild parties, where boundaries blurred and identities meshed. Brando would sleep with anything that moved. Quincy had quipped, "Of in a mailbox if he could." Those remarks, once shrugged off as legendary Hollywood lore, now carried an uneasy weight. Rain's release of the diary pages forced a collision between decades, old rumors and official family denials, leaving the public perched on a knife edge. To understand why this matters, we have to rewind to the cultural wildness of the 1970s. Hollywood was a heady mix of excess, rebellion, and experimentation. Sex, drugs, and rock roll collided with the aftermath of civil rights gains. Marlon Brando, ever the iconoclast, championed native rights, protested Vietnam, and challenged stardom's rules. Pryor, breaking free from comedic norms, spewed profanity and truth in equal measure. His routines unapologetically raw. Both men embodied a defiance of convention, pushing boundaries on stage, screen, and behind closed doors. In that context, a late, night encounter between the two icons seems less scandalous and more inevitable. A private reflection of an era that prized authenticity above all. But authenticity cuts both ways. Pryor's diary entries hint at something deeper than mere curiosity or dalliance. On several pages he scribbled about feeling seen in a way no one else had managed. He described gazing into a mirror of experience, where two legends confronted their own vulnerabilities. "I was looking for the voice inside me," he wrote. He had it, too. Such passages read like therapy notes, a private reckoning far from the bright lights of stand-up clubs. By exposing them, Rain Pryor invites us not just to witness a Hollywood secret, but to peer into her father's soul. A man wrestling with identity, race, and longing in a world that demanded he play a certain role. Yet any move to publish a full diary faces fierce resistance. Jennifer Lee, as executor, controls the estate's literary rights. Court filings reveal she's fought to keep the journals under wraps, citing privacy concerns and the family's well-being. Rain counters that her father intended for these pages to be revealed one day, calling them crucial to understanding his life and art. Legal briefs exchanged over the past year read like scenes from a courtroom drama. Witness affidavits, seal requests, appeals for injunctions. Each filing underscores the stakes, millions of dollars in royalties and a legacy, either enshrined or buried forever. It's a battle of narrative ownership, pitting Pryor's progeny against the woman who stood by him in his final chapters. Despite the legal showdown, Rain Pryor's disclosures ignited a broader cultural debate about the boundaries of celebrity privacy and the ethics of posthumous revelations. On Twitter and Instagram, hashtags like #FiPryorBrandoTruth and #FiDiaryLeaks trended within hours, and online forums erupted with both outrage and fervent support. Some argued that any attempt to rewrite sexual history smacked of sensationalism, while others hailed Rain's act as an overdue gesture of artistic honesty and reclamation. Documentary filmmakers sensed a blockbuster narrative, lining up deals to secure exclusive rights to the unpublished journals. Scripts were drafted, budgets drawn, and legal departments crossed paths in quiet negotiation rooms. Yet Rain resisted offers that required editorial vetoes, insisting the diaries speak without outside distortion. She feared a diluted message if she ceded creative control to networks more interested in ratings than in truth. Jennifer Lee's team countered with selective releases, offering sanitized excerpts to trusted biographers under strict confidentiality agreements. They painted Rain as a scorned daughter, exploiting private memories for personal gain and social media spotlight. Legal filings attacked her credibility, citing contradictory statements from previous interviews and alleged misquotes in public comments. The courtroom saga became a media spectacle as live blogs tracked wrinkle-by-wrinkle testimony from both sides. Through it all, Rain turned to the diaries themselves as her moral compass and source of authority. At public readings and press conferences, she recited poignant entries that revealed Pryor's innermost reflections on vulnerability and love. One passage referred to an unsent letter, never mailed to Brando, its torn edges scanned in published articles. To prove authenticity, journal columns dissected the metaphors Pryor used, comparing his writing style to his stand-up cadence, noting rhythmic pauses and clipped humor. This nuanced analysis helped fans appreciate Pryor, not just as a comedian, but as a probing, poetic mind wrestling publicly with identity. Industry insiders whispered about the potential impact these revelations would have on Brando's enduring mythos. Could an intimate encounter tarnish the legacy of a man revered for his unwavering activism and screen legend status? Would audiences reevaluate Brando's films, searching for hints of unspoken desire in scenes from Last Tango to Apocalypse Now. More broadly, scholars debated how queer history often remains hidden in the margins until a family member blows the lid off. Critics of sensational reporting scoffed at the idea that a handful of lines in a dusty diary could shift cultural narratives. Yet countless readers confessed the entries appended their perception of Pryor's rugged persona. Exposing a man yearning for honest intimacy, podcasts were launched to dissect each phrase, interviewing experts on body language, Hollywood gossip, and the 1970s social landscape. This multimedia exploration revived discussions about the blurred lines between public performance and private self, a theme central to both men's lives. Rain's decision to publish the diaries also sparked debates in academic circles, igniting panels at Berkeley and Harvard. Literature professors compared Pryor's notebooks to Tennessee Williams' manuscripts, noting how both writers transmuted personal pain into art. Psychologists examined the pages for evidence of post-traumatic growth, arguing Pryor's candid self-examination foreshadowed modern therapy discourse. For many, the diaries became more than celebrity gossip. They were artifacts of emotional resilience and creative transformation. Meanwhile, memorial events planned for Pryor's centennial anniversary in 2040 took on new significance. Curators debated whether to display diary excerpts alongside film clips in a museum retrospective about his trailblazing career. Brando's estate representatives quietly lobbied to exclude any mention of the alleged rendezvous from official programs. They feared a scandal overshadowing Pryor's artistry, turning a celebration of comedic genius into a tabloid circus. Social justice advocates also chimed in, analyzing how the revelations intersected with broader discussions on race, power, and sexuality. Pryor's diaries reminded many that Black artists historically navigated hostile industries by concealing personal truths. By laying bare his private desires and emotional fractures, Rain challenged the notion that icons must remain flawless. Her act of defiance empowered others to share hidden stories and claim ownership of their narratives. Every hidden confession surfaces eventually, when the world demands to know truth. As the diaries continued their slow drip into public view, Rain Pryor stepped onto stages from Los Angeles to London, armed not with punchlines, but with her father's private words. She held them up like lanterns in a cave, illuminating corners of his psyche long kept in shadow. At each event, she began by acknowledging the burden of inheritance. "My father gave you laughter, but he held back some tears." The audience leaned forward, hungry for context, and she obliged. Screening scanned pages behind her, reading passages in her own voice to punctuate the silence. In those moments, Pryor's legacy felt less like a polished trophy and more like a living conversation between father and daughter, performer and witness. Journalists followed her across continents, eager to capture body language and emotional nuance. One profile in The Guardian described Rain's performance as equal parts memoir and ritual, noting how she traced the smudged ink lines with her fingertips, almost as if she could summon her father's presence by touch. Interviewers asked if she feared backlash from Hollywood's old guard. She paused, then replied, "I fear burying truth more than I fear rocking boats." That declaration became a rallying cry for fans who saw her courage not as a betrayal, but as an act of love, an attempt to rescue a man from the myth that threatened to overshadow his humanity. Meanwhile, grassroots campaigns formed in online communities, demanding that streaming platforms host an unredacted documentary. Petitions amassed tens of thousands of signatures, and hashtags pivoted from scandal to solidarity, Fef Pryor Truth, Fef Diary Liberation. Independent filmmakers found crowdfunding success, raising budgets of six figures to secure rights and license archival footage. Their pitch decks promised an unvarnished portrait of genius, pain, and secrecy, trading network gloss for raw verite. Industry insiders whispered that major studios were quietly monitoring these developments, uncertain whether to join the embrace of authenticity or to preserve the allure of enigma. Behind the scenes, legal wrangling escalated into a high-stakes chess match. Jennifer Lee's lawyers reiterated claims that full diary publication would violate privacy protections granted under California law. They even floated the argument that revealing intimate encounters, no matter how historically significant, could trigger defamation actions if family members disputed the facts. Rain's counsel countered that the diaries constituted Pryor's own testimony, inherently protected as personal expression, and invoked moral rights clauses allowing heirs to shield creative works from suppression. Filings clogged court calendars, and judges began to weigh not just contractual minutiae, but questions about how society values the private revelations of celebrated figures. As this legal drama unfolded, commentators on late-night shows speculated about the diaries' potential to append Hollywood's sanitized narratives. One comedian quipped, "It's like finding your grandma's secret love letters buried in a shoebox." Only the stars involved are Brando and Pryor. That zinger, equal parts flippant and pointed, underscored the dichotomy between public persona and private heart. Other pundits took a more serious tone, reflecting on how Pryor's struggles, addiction, heartbreak, yearning, mirrored broader cultural tensions by shining a light on suppressed memories. Rain Pryor forced an industry built on controlled images to confront the messy authenticity of human experience. Academic conferences shifted to public forums as universities invited Rain to speak on panels about archiving oral history and celebrity autobiographical ethics. Scholars discussed the diaries as case studies in posthumous narrative control, debating whether heirs should wield editorial power or serve as custodians of unfiltered memory. A Columbia University symposium even featured side-by-side readings of original journal pages and the published transcripts, allowing attendees to compare tone, nuance, and editorial choices. The event was live, streamed to tens of thousands, underscoring that this was no mere family squabble, but a touchstone for conversations about art, ownership, and the right to tell one's own story. Amid these highbrow deliberations, fans held watch parties for leaked audio clips. Private Discord servers erupted in translation battles as volunteers tried to parse every syllable of Pryor's voice, hunting for inflections that might confirm or deny the presence of a second speaker. Some claimed to hear Brando's baritone low and playful. Others dismissed the whispers as background noise, possibly added by overzealous fans. The resulting arguments revealed the human tendency to project desires onto uncertain fragments, a dynamic both illuminating and alarming in its intensity. Through it all, Rain Pryor maintained a steady public face, resolute yet vulnerable. In interviews, she spoke of grief, not just over her father's passing, but over the years lost to silence. She confessed that at times she felt haunted by the question, if he'd spoken his truth while alive, would he still be here with us? That rumination struck a chord with anyone who'd lost a loved one to stigma, shame, or silence. In this sense, the diaries became a lament and a lesson, reminding us that withholding truth can exact a profound personal toll. In the background of every development, the ghost of Marlon Brando lingered, less as a caricature of Hollywood decadence, and more as a symbol of unspoken longings. Brando's own files, stored in vaults, now faced renewed scrutiny. Could additional letters or photographs exist, corroborating Pryor's entries? Researchers filed Freedom of information requests to declassify recordings from Brando's anti-establishment circles. While few expected blockbuster revelations, beyond Rain's disclosures, the mere prospect of further illumination spoke to our collective yearning for connection, for proof that icons are flesh and blood, capable of both transcendent artistry and intimate vulnerability. As we approach the next chapter in this unfolding saga, the question remains: will legal barriers crumble under the weight of public demand, allowing the full diaries to take their place in the cultural canon? Or will privileged silences persist, keeping the most personal corners of history locked away? Rain Pryor's journey, from the uncertainty of a silenced daughter to the clarity of someone wielding her father's words, has already altered the landscape. What comes next may determine not only how we remember two titans of 20th century art, but how future generations claim the right to speak truths buried in private pages. Rain Pryor's crusade is now at a crossroads. Behind closed courtroom doors, Jennifer Lee's lawyers pressed judges to uphold the estate's confidentiality rules, arguing that even heirs must honor the decedent's right to privacy. Meanwhile, Rain's legal team filed cross motions demanding the diary's release, citing Pryor's own letter instructing that these writings be made public posthumously. The tension crackled like static in the courtroom, and observers described attorneys pouncing on every comma, desperate to sway rulings that could set precedent for celebrity estates nationwide. Outside the courthouse, rallies sprang up. Fans carried placards reading "Truth Over Taboo" and "Private Pages, Public Legacy." Supporters wore T-shirts printed with Pryor's scrawled line, "I was looking for the voice inside me." Studio lights tracked their chants as cameras captured the faces of those who felt personally invested in the fight. For them, this was not merely gossip. It was a movement for transparency, an assertion that art born in solitude belongs to everyone, not just gatekeepers with legal claims. At the same time, Rain found herself navigating a minefield of emotional landmines. She spoke candidly about grappling with survivors' guilt, feeling responsible for dredging up her father's painful memories, even as she believed it was the only way to honor him. Late-night phone calls with her siblings often ended in tears, with some accusing her of profiteering off their father's legacy. Yet another layer of complexity emerged in the form of her mother, Shelley Bonus, who supported Rain's mission, but worried about reopening wounds long thought buried. Each conversation revealed new dimensions of familial love tangled with resentment and fear. Rain's own career pivoted in real time. Scripts landed on her desk that once might have been out of reach, now starring roles in prestige productions eager to capitalize on her rising profile. Directors praised her authentic voice, unfiltered honesty,